you located?
I'm in Black Mountain, North Carolina.
Okay, excellent. Well, it's
Yeah,
great to meet you.
yeah, I like your background.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a visual artist myself, so that's
Oh,
one of my
oh,
originals.
oh, I like it.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I like yours back there. Is that almost looks like Tuscany?
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah. Well, man, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting in to Keepers of the Flame in
Oh,
your life and
good,
music. So thank you.
good, good.
Um, Before we do that, I want to know, one of the most magnanimous things that hit the world of musicians was the pandemic, 4 years ago. We were trying to figure out how to get out of it. How did you survive the pandemic and how did it change the way that you do things or how did it influence this new album?
Oh, God, that's a hard question. Well, I had a US tour that was going to happen that month. It was March, and the tour was supposed to start like the third week of March. And about the second week of March, we started hearing about this virus. And at first, we weren't sure if maybe we had to start later, maybe a couple of gigs would get canceled. And then after a couple of days, like the entire thing was canceled and then just went crazy. So that got canceled. Then I had a European tour in the fall, and so I decided I wasn't going to go on any airplanes. So so I canceled that. So basically, I stayed home for 2 years. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't see anybody, just my wife.
Yeah.
And it was weird. I mean, I played like Zoom concerts at the house like once a month. They were sponsored by a local library, and I tried playing music with people on Zoom, but I didn't like it. Didn't feel right. And then I said, then what happened is my friend Art Lillard, who is the drummer on this new record, and half the music is his. And we hadn't seen each other in maybe 20 years because I had left New York 20 years ago. And we had recorded several studio things of our music that we never released. So we decided we would release them during COVID. So we released three of those projects during COVID, and then Art said, "Why don't we do a live recording?" Once we were able to actually, COVID had kind of faded out to wasn't going to kill you right away. So he's in New York, and he came to North Carolina, and I got four guys from here and we went in the studio for 2 days and we recorded this record, which is half Art's music and half my music. And so I arranged some stuff for trombone, saxophone, trumpet, because that was what he wanted. Because he's been really into arranging the last 30 years. He has a big band in New York. He's been running it for 30 years, which is kind of unbelievable. So yeah, so how did I survive? Well, I got unemployment.
Yeah.
Although that was really hard. I had to at one point I was calling the office in North Carolina, the main unemployment office, and I just let the phone call for 5 hours, And while I was in the middle of a Zoom lesson, somebody answered. So I said, "Oh, I'm gonna have to hang up because I have to, I've been waiting 5 hours to talk to this person." And so, I was able to finally make that work, but that was a lot of work. And I also got grants. I got about 3 or 4 grants. I got a grant from the Doris Duke Foundation. They were giving out grants for the artists, and I got a grant from another foundation. I think it's called Muse Arts or something. It's California, and another grant I got from somewhere here. And so between the unemployment and the grants and the Zoom lessons, we were able to basically survive, but I don't know if that
Yeah, no, it
answers your
certainly.
question.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. So let's move on back here a little bit to the beginnings of your life. How did music and more specifically jazz become your world?
Well, I started music when I was 5 years old on the piano because I heard the piano on the radio and I liked what it was. I didn't know what it was. I just liked it. So somehow we got a piano. I don't remember how I was I was 5 years old, but so I started lessons and then I was in New York City at the time, and then my mother moved us to Miami Beach when I was 8 years old, and from that point on, I didn't have a piano teacher, so I only had lessons in the beginning, and then I started playing rock and roll in junior high. The Beatles. I'm still I'm a Beatles freak. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I can listen to the Beatles all day.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so I was in a band and we played all that stuff, and I had a Farfisa organ, which was the low end. There were two organs. There was a Vox and there was a Farfisa, and the Farfisa was a lot cheaper. So somehow I got that. I don't know how, but I did. And so I played that, and I enjoyed it. And I also played trombone in the bands all through school. And then in high school, I heard jazz. It was sort of came upon me. I was Blood, Sweat, and Tears was happening. Chicago was happening, so I was kind of getting into this horn thing. I didn't know what it was, but I liked it. But then I heard Coltrane and Miles, and that was it, man. I like lost my mind. I completely and what it was I just thought it was so beautiful. It just I had never heard anything like that. I mean, I love classical music, but it wasn't the same. There was something in there. So I went off to college, and then when I turned 20, I dropped out so that I could start studying jazz. And over the course of the next 20 years, I went back to school on and off and got a master's degree finally so I could teach at colleges, but most of my education was on the street, mostly in New York, just getting my ass kicked.
Yeah. What
know.
what was the first live show you saw? First live jazz show that really blew you away?
Well, I saw the Bill Evans trio in Boston,
Wow.
when I was 21, 20, I guess 20, yeah, 19 or 20, because I was going to school near Boston when I dropped out. So I saw that. That was like unbelievable. And I went up to him at the intermission, I kind of asked him if I could have lessons. And he like walked me. We were going to the coffee shop, so we walked to the coffee shop, and he explained to me that he was traveling all the time, and there was no way that he could actually give lessons. But he was so friendly and warm. And then I saw so that was in Boston, and then just around the same time, and I saw Horace Silver with the Brecker brothers at the Vanguard. That was kind of unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then I saw Return to Forever, the original Return to Forever,
Yeah.
just the chord. Well, it was like with Stanley Clark was standing in the back of the room with his eyes closed because he was so shy. And so those, that's, and then I saw Cannonball. I saw Zappa with George Duke and the Turtles, and I saw the Mahavishnu Orchestra where when they came out and they were all wearing white, and, and I thought like I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, I have to wear white. It was like it was like so spiritual, like what they would do, how they presented it. It was, and I saw Weather Report quite a few times, and those were like the early thing. Oh, and I saw Miles one time at Tanglewood when he had three keyboard players playing electric, and he opened for Santana. Right, he was the opening band, and then I saw a VSOP at Tanglewood also. So those were the early things.
Yeah. So you've
I
gone on
saw
and
Roland Kirk.
yeah,
Oh, he scared me. Like
I bet.
man, I felt bad, really bad. I felt really bad that I was white. I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So you went on in your career, 40 plus year career, to play with a lot of legends and luminaries. What did you ultimately learn from them firsthand that you now teach younger players and the younger
Uh,
generations?
well, I'll tell you, I learned a lot from playing with Oliver Lake because when we were on tour, he was already he, he was the age that I am now. Okay, with I'm 73. So he was around that age, like maybe 10 years ago, which is when we were on tour. And and his presence on the bandstand was so real. It was so intense. He didn't have to say anything. He just stood there and played, and it was so real. So when I play with young people, which is what I try to do, I played a concert last week, and the sax player was in his 20s, and you know, so I just said, make a list of songs that you want to play, and then I will choose songs based on whatever your list is. So I wanted him to be really comfortable, and then I never say anything bad, never, you know. So I just try to create a safe space, because I think that's what music is. It's a safe space for everybody, for the audience, for the players. I mean, in my world, it's a spiritual space, but people don't have to feel that. They just have to feel safe. I mean, I used to teach a lot of workshops, and when the young musicians would get on stage and play, they'd be all nervous, which I understand. I mean, sometimes I get nervous, but so I would say, well, first of all, there are no mistakes. So you can't make a mistake, since you don't know what you're going to play. You're improvising. So how can you make a mistake when you don't know what you're going to do? And then I said, but if something happens that you didn't want to do, then you either have consequences that you intend, or consequences that you don't intend. Right? There's only two options. And I'm not saying, and sometimes the ones that were unintended are more interesting. So what are you afraid, don't be afraid, because nothing bad can happen. Then I would say, okay, now we're all standing here. There might be like 12 people on the stage. I say, so does anybody have any weapons? And then they would say no. I say, well, then we don't have anything to worry about. Nothing bad can happen. So the whole concept of just creating a safe space. Now, that's not necessarily the way a lot of the older musicians were, but I don't know. That's how
No,
I feel.
yeah, no, that's good. So I'm curious, in this illustrious career that you've had, what are you the proudest of? What stands out?
I'm just proud that I was able to continue on this path, no matter what happened, because it's basically it's impossible to survive in this society as a creative artist. It's a lot easier to do it in Europe. You get a lot more state funding, and I mean, my whole career was in Europe. I don't even, I have no career here in America. It was all in Europe, and it was all because I got tired of playing in New York for the door and nobody in the audience, right? So, I mean, which is what everybody was doing. I mean, unless you were, famous. So, and during the time when my career really started, I had a band with Dave Douglas and Mark Feldman. The band was called the Mosaic Sextet. That was a really great band. And one day, it was together for 3 years, and then one day, Dave said, he was leaving the band. He was going to start his own band. And so we watched him build a career. And so Joe Fonda and I said, well, if he can do it, why can't we do it? Right? I mean, it seemed like it was a viable thing. I think it's much harder now. I don't know why exactly, but I think it is. But then it was just, so what we did is we spent 2 years, 3 years. Joe would come to my house at night, and we would wake up at 4 in the morning, and we would call Europe for 5 hours, like for 5 days a week for 2 or 3 years. And that's how we did it.
So let me ask you this. What has been the key to your longevity? All these years you've been in this world of music. What is it that is motivated? What have you liked the best about being a professional musician?
Well, I love, I love, I love music. I just love the music. It's like if you asked me, is there anything in the world that I want that I don't have? I would say no. I have everything. I have everything that I want. And 90% of that is that I can sit down at the piano and express myself more now than ever. I'm still not satisfied, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I'm never satisfied. It's weird. I mean, I know I should be, but I'm not. But for instance, I make a record and then I listen to it and I go, wow, that I like that. I don't like this and this, but wow, that I like. So I'm proud of that. So I, when I turned 20 years old, that was when I decided I had to do this, and it was like, I'm 20 years old. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 20. All right. I'm obviously, I'm not a child. I'm 20 years old. I didn't know what that meant until I became 20. And then I was like, okay, so what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Am I going to go to college and get some kind of a job, or am I going to follow this incredible, beautiful music that is speaking to me like nothing ever did or ever has, right? And so that's what I've done. And I mean, before I met my wife, who I met at the McDowell Colony, because I was the first jazz composer invited to the McDowell Colony. So I went. I didn't even know what it was. I just applied because I wanted to get away from the city, and I was accepted. So I went, and this woman was there. She was a poet, and we became friends. And eventually, we we met again, and eventually we got married. But if I hadn't have met her, my health was failing because of the incredible stress that I was under as a jazz musician, living alone, and just trying to survive. So I had to cancel at least one European tour, maybe two, because I was so sick I couldn't go. And I didn't know what I was what was going to happen. Well, nobody knows what's going to happen, but I was sick. I was really sick. And then I went to New Hampshire to this artist colony, and I met this woman. And then after 9/11, which was the next year, I went to see her in Memphis, and then we fell in love, and then I moved to Memphis to be with her. And she was a professor, and she had health insurance, which I couldn't afford. And all of a sudden I was able to see doctors, and I got healthy. I mean, it's like, you know, and my whole life has been like that. My whole life has been like, whenever I really needed something, it came.
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to pick up the latest album, catch you live, any of your previous work, where's the best place to go?
MichaelJefryStevens.com. You just have to spell Jefry, Jefry.
Okay. Michael, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
I appreciate it. And hopefully when I get back to KC, we'll meet in person.
I'd love to.